Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Samantha Bradshaw. We're going to talk about the law, but I think we're going to go a little bit deeper. So I want to welcome you to the show, Samantha. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your business?
So, Alicia, my business, our whole goal is to keep small businesses out of a courtroom because I don't like courtrooms as a lawyer. I've spent way too much time in them working in this profession, and Lord knows I'm on the other side where I'm not the one risking losing anything. I know my small business owners don't want to be there. So we've built an entire virtual law firm around the idea of preventing these issues from happening in the first place.
A lot of people do this with respect to their business. They do it with respect to their health. They do it with respect to all sorts of things. They think it's not going to happen to me. I don't have to worry about those things. Oh, everybody gets COVID or everybody gets sued or whatever, but not me. So let's start there. I don't want this to be a scare tactic type of interview, but I do want to be real about the fact that if you're not doing things the right way, it can come back and bite you in the ass. So you're all about doing things the right way so you don't have to deal with those things later on, correct?
That's pretty much it. So very specifically, the way that we've tried to design all the services that we offer, and that's probably a good reason I'm a lawyer. The way I try to approach like my life is match the level of effort to the level of risk that could be coming from any given situation, relationship, whatever that may be. That doesn't mean for, the $5,000 product that you put $30,000 of legal protections on it. That doesn't make any sense. But if you're talking like 6-7 figure products, yeah, then we start talking different levels of legal protection because you have more at risk, right? Match not only your money investment, but also your time investment into what's going on, right? I know if you've seen those on TikTok, all the folks who make the little bento boxes for their kids. Okay, so you can slam together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and throw it in a Ziploc bag. Or you can make this adorable little bento box with, heart-shaped plums next to little star-shaped grapes. I don't know how you cut a star-shaped grape, but let's go with it, right? And it can be beautiful and amazing, but was that level of effort worth what you were putting into it? And you're the only one that could decide that. So we try to address legal the same way.
So for those listening who have an established business and perhaps the business is growing and they're questioning what they're even supposed to do.
I mean, aren't we all?
It can be a case of just, I literally don't know what to do. I don't know what I need. So how do people find out what they need?
And I think that, look, most people, when they open, especially service-based businesses, they open service-based businesses because they love doing the thing that they're doing to serve people. They didn't open a business to become a bookkeeper. They didn't open a business to become a graphic designer. They didn't open a business to become like the tech IT guru that's fixing every problem when the back-end software breaks down. What do you do in all of those situations? You find an expert in that area. You listen to what they have to say. You use their time. You use their expertise. And in my case, look, law school sucks. I don't recommend it to anyone. The reality is I went through it so you don't have to. So find those folks who know that. And the other thing is you can also find older businesses that are doing something similar as you, knowing that advice and what they've done still may not be perfect. It depends on where they got it from, but it'll give you a good starting point.
Let's talk about a few maybe fundamentals. So some things that are just really basic that perhaps the majority or a large number of business owners should be looking at and should have in place.
Yeah. And that's a great question. I think absolute starting point from day one. I don't care if you sold $5 of products or $5 million of products or services. You need to have, it goes by a bunch of different names. It can be terms of service, terms of sale, refund policy. Sometimes they get really long, but essentially these core things that govern how you're going to provide the service or product that you're selling, how they pay you, What happens if they don't pay you? And what your refund or late payment policy is. That can be as short and as simple as a single page document. And anytime you've gone to buy something online, they have that tiny little checkbox that says, I agree to these terms. That's what's inside of there, that thing that nobody reads. But when somebody comes back to your business with a chargeback claim, that's the thing you can give to the bank to make sure you keep your money. And this is day one, right? I think at a certain point, once you've gotten, my general advice is 3 paying customers. If you're in a lower risk situation, you need to go set up your LLC or your corporation, depending on what your hopes are for where your business goes. If you're trying to sell it or you're just trying to retire with it, you may have different needs as to what that business entity is. The reason I say that is because if you screw up something in your business or somebody on your team screws up something in your business, you don't want the person who was harmed by your business to be able to go after your personal belongings, your home, your car, your bank account. With that in mind, please keep your bank account for your business 100% separate from your personal stuff. If you've got any kind of like mix over there, please don't do it. Start separating it tomorrow, because you will absolutely ruin the whole point of the LLC. Somebody could fight you in court over it. It'd be a long, nasty fight, but like this is a really simple thing. Have 1 credit card for your business, 1 for your personal stuff, or 10 for your personal stuff and 10 for your business. Anything in between, just keep them separate. I think those are really foundational things. The folks that I really love working with are folks who are trying to expand and build like their own little mini empires that they can either sell when they're getting ready to go off or hand down to their kids or a business partner. And a lot of what I see there is such a focus on the immediate. Okay, let's get all this stuff together, what we're selling right now, let's sell just enough of it and make sure it's absolutely perfect. But for so many business owners, they're so in the day-to-day, it's tough to think about, well, how can I make this easier on myself 5-10 years from now? And the answer to that generally is going to be some form of intellectual property. Registering trademarks, registering your copyright and your content, being able to license that out to other businesses even, right? Maybe you could franchise, maybe you can create a licensing program to train other people in the method that you do if you're service-based. You can hire other companies to make the product that you sell and maintain certain standards to make sure your product maintains the brand that like you've put all this time and effort into. That only comes through registered intellectual property. And I've seen so many people, they wait so long to be able to do this that we run into issues. And if they would have done it earlier, we could have saved them thousands of dollars. And there wouldn't be this concern of like, oh my God, am I going to get a letter any day that tells me I'm not allowed to do this? And if you've seen all the Etsy creators, right, that build fan fiction stuff, right, from any franchise, right? But Disney and Marvel are notorious for going after even your tiny little, like, I'm making a $5 keychain on Etsy creator. Those kinds of letters are terrifying to receive. There's like a small panic attack that comes with them. Those things don't happen if you understand how you can create your own intellectual property and then start acting maybe not as mean as Disney and Marvel, because they can be nasty, but start acting like them and, you know, go on the offensive instead of the defensive, right? And making sure that those items will create easier revenue for you. I don't know about you. I don't want to be working as hard as I am 10 years from now. I'm not working as hard as I am now as I was 10 years ago. And the way that intellectual property can work, it can help set up those foundations so you're not working so hard next decade.
What are some different types of businesses that intellectual property is just kind of a no-brainer for? I want to put it into context for especially some of our newer business owners, because that terminology is pretty well known by a lot of business owners and is sort of this ethereal concept to others. So I want to really like drill down so that our listeners have a good understanding of what is intellectual property, who is it relevant to, and who should be thinking about this, who should think about actually like taking that next step in their business.
So as far as who should be thinking about it, I would argue that almost every business has some form of intellectual property, whether they realize it or not. Alicia, this podcast is intellectual property. protectable by copyright for the content itself, and protectable by trademark for the name, right? So starting with that point of, you probably have intellectual property and you don't know it. What are the two intellectual properties broken up into three things? Two of them overwhelmingly apply to the micro businesses that I tend to work with. Intellectual property is broken up into trademarks, copyright, and patents. They are not the same thing. There is a gentleman who's going viral on the internet that's telling you patent is like the strongest form of trademark of IP protection. So why would you get a trademark when you can get a patent? I don't know who he is. If you've seen this video, please don't listen to that. It's terrible. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And that leads to some of this confusion of this like magical black box about like, well, what is this? Do I have it? Do I need to protect it? What does that mean? Patents are for processes and inventions. Unless you're creating the new shiny thing and you're in like some kind of R&D, that probably isn't applying to your listeners. Maybe it is. If you are, that's amazing. Patents are like on point. People buy them for a lot of money. Congratulations. The other two that generally apply to both service-based and product-based businesses. You have trademarks. Trademarks are to protect legally what's called the source identifier of a brand, of a product, of a service. What does that mean? It means if you look at a t-shirt and it's got that little swoopy symbol on it, you know it's Nike. You know Nike made it. And if any other company put that little swoopy symbol on it, you would think it was Nike. And in order to protect US buyers from confusing the real Nike and whoever put this little knockoff swoopy symbol on their t-shirt, we say that Nike is the only one that can sell t-shirts with that little swoopy symbol. That applies to the name of your business. That could apply to the name of like a signature product, a program, your course name, your podcast name, all of these things. So that way nobody confuses your thing, your service, your good, your product with anybody else. That's the one that really any business has some interest in. Now, how much interest depends on a few things. If you are completely content being a mom and pop shop selling to your small town and you have no intention of ever selling your business, don't spend the money on a trademark, because you have to prove that you're selling across state lines when you apply. So there's no point in spending the money if you're very content in your little bubble, you know, making candles in your house or selling local gift shop stuff from your small town, you know, little roadside attraction thing. Don't mess with it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. If you have any intention of expanding, if you sell online, this is when it starts becoming really crucial. Copyright, our last version, applies to anybody who honestly creates content. And it's kind of amazing to me now that this term has become widely understood, because it makes my job so much easier, right? Content being, do you write books? Do you make TikTok videos? Are you on YouTube? Are you recording a podcast? Are you writing a blog? This is all content. And the actual thing that people can watch or read or listen to or observe, that's your content. If somebody were, and this happened pretty regularly a couple years ago, right, before the AI started jumping on it. We're still figuring out who owns the content that AI is creating, by the way. This is fascinating. I'll tell you about that some years from now when we actually figure it out. But before AI, it was so common that people would go and like steal a photo off your website and then you'd find it on like Splashy later. Or you would go and steal something from Google Images and put it on your website and get a letter from somebody saying, you stole my image, you know, owe me a bunch of money, right? Copyright works like that, essentially. If somebody steals your stuff exactly, or a substantial portion of it, right, and makes a copy of it, copyright, okay, then you have the right to tell them, no, you can't have that, you have to take it down. And even more so, what's kind of amazing, the US Congress created a small claims court, a virtual small claims court for copyright infringement a little bit over a year ago at this point. And we're in 2023 now, so right, 2022 I think is when it went live. Before, enforcing this kind of thing, if you saw somebody stole your picture, if you saw somebody stole your blog post, you would have to go to whoever was hosting that. So maybe it was on Instagram, maybe it was the blog host, maybe it was, you know, complaining to Google and say, hey, they stole my stuff. This is proof that it's my stuff. And the maximum that would happen is they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll take it down. Right? This was a takedown notice. This was built into the law too. Unless you were willing to hire a federal lawyer to go to federal court, which is crazy expensive, by the way, you were never going to get a penny for somebody stealing your stuff. Right? Not legally. Or not within the legal system. I don't know about the legally thing, but we could have another discussion. But very specifically, now there is this virtual small claims court that you can go to from anywhere in the United States, as long as as long as whatever it is that you think somebody stole is already registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. There's basically a fine built into the law. You're guaranteed a judgment for money. Whether you can collect on it or not, I don't know. But the court's gonna say that they owe you money. We've never had this option before. Not so easily, not so accessible by any means. And all you have to do is submit whatever you've created. And I recommend in the past 90 days, because there's a 90-day window for registration where legally it's just better with the U.S. Copyright Office. Every 90 days, you submit the content that you've created that quarter to the U.S. Copyright Office. You've got that protection built in.
This
By
is
default.
fascinating.
It doesn't matter if anybody else steals anything.
You just gave this
right?
incredible little discourse on things that are not common sense to most business owners.
And why they don't make it common sense, I don't know. I think they just want to keep me employed. But I'm out here trying to make sure people at least understand the information, because I wish it was a matter of if you're going to run into one of these issues. But if your business goes on for more than 12 months, you're going to run into one of these issues at some point. Unfortunately, it's inevitable. There's not a single business that's hit the 10-year mark that hasn't run into one of these issues. Not one.
Well, now let's shift gears just a little bit, because I want to talk to you as the owner of your business. And I love to ask my guests about a mindset challenge that you've personally had to overcome on your journey to get to where you are today. Is there something specific that comes to mind when you think about the challenges that you've had to work through and overcome?
Besides convincing myself I have the audacity to do this, certainly there's ongoing issues of, am I prioritizing what's important in my life? Right? Am I creating a business that allows me to do that? And when it gets out of whack, I feel incredibly guilty. If I'm not, giving specific time to those things that I know I want to prioritize, but sometimes our businesses, they just, they take on a life of their own. And sometimes they just need more from us than we planned on giving. So I've actually got, apart from other things, on good days, I don't have these issues, but we all have bad days, right? And I know on good days, I have the audacity and I can figure anything out. I know that I'll find the solution to the problem. That's literally what law is. It's a puzzle, at least in my brain. But on bad days, there's no way I can do this. How am I supposed to figure this out? Right? I've never done this before. I'm furious. I'm irritated. I'm stubborn. So what I've started doing in the past few months, which has helped as long as I remember to look at it, I actually have on my desktop background, just simply a Canva background. And it's got a few crucial things on there, apart from this adorable animation of my cat that just popped up because it's on a rotation. It has a reminder section. And it says a few crucial things that I remember on good days when I'm doing really well for myself and able to step over those mountains of things that I haven't done before, that on bad days, somebody needs to remind me of, but nobody knows what those reminders are better than me. So it's got a list of those reminders. And it can be reminders as simple as I can do hard things. I get really overwhelmed if something is, big and looming in front of me. It's got stuff that simply says there are no problems, only puzzles. Because I love puzzles. So it makes things feel easier for me. But it's also sometimes has one that says I am on the way to becoming X type of person. If I don't believe that yet, if I know I'm not there yet, I can believe I'm on the way to becoming, even just by having that reminder on my computer. Because I know I am, because it's on my computer. I put it there. There was a thought, there was effort behind that. So that's been my biggest thing on a recurring basis, is finding those bad thoughts that make everything that much harder, trying to find the good version of it on a good day, and putting them in front of my face so I have to look at them as often as humanly possible.
I love it. So you shared a couple of little tips in there. There is so much value in being able to reframe our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, our triggers. And if you can set yourself up for the support when you need it, that's so helpful, because a lot of people are not being preemptive at all.
Right.
And I've found that even some of my clients who've been with me for a long time, they know exactly what they're supposed to do, but when they get triggered, do they do it? They surely do not.
Look, I think that's just human, right? How can we expect to put forth the effort that we expect from our best selves when we're having bad days? That's not possible. There was a moment a couple weeks ago, there were a whole bunch of things going wrong that particular set of weeks. And I'm fully fortunate enough that I live in Brazil, and I have a personal trainer because they're dirt cheap here. By the way, guys, expat life, 100% the way to go. It's wonderful. But I hired that trainer when I was in a good position, right? When I felt good about myself, and I know moving my body is going to help me. It's going to help me stay, healthy in the way that I want to stay healthy. I enjoy the company of my trainer, who sadly just moved to Canada. So now I got to find a new one. When my world was falling apart, though, I would not have drugged my butt to anything physical. But I have a standing, recurring appointment with this man. I guess. Not anymore. Now I got to find someone else. Because I had set him up when I was having, a good period, when I know it doesn't matter how bad I feel, I need that in my day, in my week, to make me function better as a human being, right? As a business owner, as a daughter, as a wife, as a sister, as all the things that, all the roles that you have to fulfill. And I was having bad weeks. I drugged my butt to go work out, because there was somebody standing outside my building with a dumbbell and a mat saying, "Where are you?" It wasn't optional. Setting yourself up for those success points and making it so it's not optional. I'm a lawyer. I can talk myself into or out of anything, right? It's good. The accountability is key.
So good. All right, Samantha, now is the time where I want you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you.
I would absolutely love to. You can find me, generally, we're quite active on Instagram. The hashtag is @Inline Legal. The handle. The website is the same, www.inlinelegal.com. We're also on TikTok fairly often, but please send me a DM if any of this resonated with you. I would love to talk to you more about setting up preemptive things in your business. And particularly if that trademark discussion resonated with you, we've actually got a quiz that you can take to tell you if a trademark's worth it for your business and help you figure out if your name is actually trademarkable. That's a whole nother discussion. Basically, the more made up your word, the better. It's the simplest line. If you head over to our website and put in /trademark quiz, you can find it there. You can take it at 2 a.m. from your pajamas.
I want to thank you so much for being with us, Samantha, and sharing the information that you shared. It is new information that has not been shared on this podcast before. And I know it was extremely valuable for our listeners.
I certainly hope so. I hope I gave them something to think about and some actionable items to move forward with their businesses.
I believe so.
Good.
And of course, I've got to thank all of our listeners. We're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.